Aloha, it's Dave Lawrence. How you doing? A big mahalo for tuning in. I really appreciate you checking this out. We're getting to speak with another musician who's performing on the bill with Steel Pulse. It's an honor to welcome one of the most popular contemporary music artists here in the islands. Even more special to speak with him during these tumultuous, fast-moving, change-filled times, as he's a brother of consciousness. On the line, my warmest aloha welcome for Matisyahu. Aloha and mahalo, my brother.
Mahalo, brother.
Thank you for being my guest. And Island Connections, I always like to go over with anyone I'm speaking with. Certainly you're a guy that if anyone's ever driven around with the radio on here in the islands, they've heard your voice over the last several years at least. And when did you first make it out here to the islands, Matis?
Let's see. What did I come out? I'm trying to remember if I've been into Hawaii once or twice. I was definitely there last February.
Right.
Because it was a day called right before Purim. It was a fasting day, and I fasted that day. I remember walking around, I guess, somewhere there. And so anyway, I was there. And I think I was there once before that as well. Probably 4 or 5 years before that. 4 years before that, 3 years before that, something like that.
So never for vacations, never with your family, only here as an artist?
That's right, yep.
And what was anything stick out in your mind? I mean, you're a guy who's traveled the whole world, so I never expect you to have a crystal clear memory of any one place. I wouldn't hit you up for something like that. But because Hawaii is sort of unusual, is there anything you can recollect about your time here? Any impressions that the islands made on you?
Yeah, I think, people always obviously talk about how beautiful Hawaii is, and then you just think, oh yeah, well, it's an island. Of course it's beautiful. All Caribbean and all islands, and I know Hawaii's not in the Caribbean, but all islands are beautiful. All beaches are beautiful. But I remember driving around at one point and getting hit with one of those double rainbows, and thinking to myself that, yeah, I think this is probably one of the most beautiful, probably in the top 3 most beautiful places I've ever been.
The double rainbow will do it to you.
Double rainbow will do it in the colors. I remember like the green of the grass, the color being so green,
Yeah, man. That's a nice memory for sure. Do you have any friends or family out here?
Not really.
Cool. Just got to check, because you never know. Somebody will be like, yeah, my cousin lives over on Maui, or I'm tight with Willie Nelson. So we have a lot of artists, as you probably can imagine, who call Hawaii.
I know a couple of guys. Like, I do know, I have hung out with Willie Nelson one time on his tour bus, and who was there was the girl from Mermaid. Remember that movie, The Mermaid in the 80s?
Daryl Hannah.
Daryl Hannah was hanging. Yeah, they were smoking spliffs on the bus.
That is so cool.
Yahoo.
When was that?
It's an interesting mix of people, isn't it?
It was you, Daryl Hannah, and Willie?
Yeah. That was at a festival on Randall's Island that Willie does with Neil Young to support
Farm Aid.
Farm Aid, yeah.
And there you are, backstage at Farm Aid, puffing with Daryl Hannah and Willie on his bus.
Got it.
What was Willie like?
Willie was cool. He was like Willie. Just exactly what you would think,
Yeah, I just interviewed him last month. He's a nice guy. He doesn't come over to Oahu that often, but we had a big benefit for Japan over here, and he came over. I got to spend a little time with him. That's a great story for you, and certainly when you're back in the islands, I'm sure you're going to be drawing a lot of people out to see you. And do you know Jack Johnson at all? He's another local guy.
Yeah, I don't really know him well. I know a reggae artist named Mishka. Does he live out there now?
I think he does.
I think so too, yeah.
There's a lot of my brothers, The Green, are on that bill. They're a local Oahu reggae band. They're actually on the Billboard, charts with reggae for a while now, so we're really proud of them. They're going to be part of your lineup. And I just, there's been this ongoing dialogue, I guess. My question for you would be about reggae and the islands. You've gotten to go to a lot of places. In fact, you mentioned, you've been to some Caribbean islands. Certainly reggae originates from Jamaica. And you may have already figured out that reggae has a huge place in Hawaii. It's a very big thing here. So I'm just curious if you have any thoughts on the inter-island connectedness of reggae? Anything you've noticed in your travels and as a person who performs it?
Well, I do think that, obviously reggae music is such a big part of the Hawaiian culture, and it's become that. You know what I mean? I don't think it was always that way, but I do think it's interesting, And besides that, I think it's a cool thing.
And where have you played in the Caribbean?
Caribbean, where have we played? I played in Jamaica. Played and recorded in Jamaica a couple of years ago. Where else? What other islands have I played? I haven't really done that many islands. It's tough, to get a good crowd out, a big enough crowd out, so that you can actually go to these places and not lose money. Because obviously you want to play for the fans and you want to be there, but you got to have a certain. It's expensive to travel, to the islands and with the whole band and the crew, and you got to have a certain kind of a lot of people that are going to come to the shows to make it worth it. So I honestly don't think I have been to that many islands besides the festival in Jamaica that I played in.
How
is Puerto Rico an island?
Yes, it is.
In Puerto Rico.
That is very much an island. What was your reaction like in Jamaica?
It was cool, but it was a little bit of a weird festival. It was actually a little bit of a strange reaction because we played at Jazz and Blues Fest in Kingston, which is more of a middle-aged crowd. And I think in general, our take on reggae is a little bit different, with like the rock elements and it's like different kind of my music, I guess, is really fusion. And I think it was also raining. It was raining. It was like a middle-aged crowd. It was pretty late, and it was, and I think they were a little bit like, "What is this?" Much cooler when it came to us playing out there.
I like that. That's a cool. At least you have a nice, honest assessment. Well, you know what you and I share, my brother, which is really cool. I always dig this when I get to have my people who at least have a Philly connection. I know you ended up in the New York area, and we'll talk about that in a moment. And that's where you're known for being from. But how much time did you spend in Westchester before migrating north?
I'm gonna break your heart right now, dude. 1 month.
Oh, you are breaking my heart, aren't you?
I was born in there, and that's it. And then we moved
to New York.
Right away.
Well, there's still, but you have that little bit of connection. Do you ever eat cheesesteaks when you go back there, or no?
You know what? I'm
vegan now.
And vegan, so cheesesteaks are pretty much out, completely. But I found a super dope vegan kosher cheesesteak place. Only in Philly could you find that. Down by the TLA. You know where that is?
Yeah, on South Street.
Yeah, there's a place called, I think it's called Blackbird Pizza.
Wow.
They make Philly cheesesteaks, vegan, with no meat, no cheese, but they're cheesesteaks, and they're kosher.
What could be wrong with that?
Oh, there's nothing wrong with
exactly.
Like 3 of them every time I go. It's bad.
You're my man. I love that. That's happening. That's very cool. Do you, when you think of your origins with the fish thing, how important was that in terms of developing your sort of your consciousness, your earthy, crunchy lifestyle? I guess I would ask you, how does a guy from, I don't think of like, Westchester County, New York or whatever as like a hotbed for reggae. How was it that you became this kind of cat that you are?
Well, I guess I was interested, like any kid anywhere in any city or town in America or in the world for that matter, I was introduced to Bob Marley, and then right away, I guess it doesn't resonate with every kid, but for me it did, resonated very powerfully, and at a time when I was, searching for my identity and struggling with, the authority, power struggles that teenagers go through, and I just related to the music, to the message, to the words, and that was really my introduction or my gateway into reggae music. And in terms of fish, that was a huge of huge importance for me, because that was I think that first Fish concert I ever went to, I would say was probably the most life-changing event that I ever had. You know, it just opened me up completely to understanding that just this depth of music and how that could transport a person into a whole nother place. And then aside from the music, like you were saying about the whole lifestyle, the whole crunchy hippie kind of lifestyle, there was the scene around it. And I remember, you know, being at that point I was 16 years old, and you know, being in school and not really feeling like school was doing anything for me, and not really feeling like I was kind of being pushed in directions I didn't want to go in, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. All I knew was I loved music, and I remember seeing kids there that were my age and even younger that had no money, nothing, and we just decided they were going to do whatever the hell they wanted to do, and that was also life changing, because that next year I basically did the same thing. I just, you know, dropped out and followed my heart as to, you know, where, you know, I realized at that point I could be my own person. I could do in my life. I could do whatever I wanted to do. I didn't need money or anything else to do it. You know, I could just. So, you know, I guess that's the answer to all three parts of that question.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine that had you been just about a decade older, you would have been with me touring with the Dead. It sounds like. Yeah.
I mean, I grew up listening to Grateful Dead because my parents were into the Grateful Dead, and I also loved the Dead. But yeah, I only caught a couple of shows before Jerry died. So
yeah, it was really before. As I listened to you speak, it was the camping and vending era started sometime in the shortly after Woodstock, but it really heated up during the '80s when they allowed people to camp and vend for the period the band was in whatever city. So you would basically be able to legitimately camp in the parking lot at the Philly Spectrum for 4 nights. It just like creates a little world, and I can tell that you obviously enjoyed tapping into that sort of world that Fish does offer. I've seen Fish a couple dozen times, so I'm with you, brother, and was there around New Year's. The only thing I don't like these days, Matis, is I don't like all the throwing of those light sticks, because I sort of value my eyes massively, and I don't like exposing my eyes to thousands and thousands and thousands of light sticks being hurled through the air. Does that ever bother you at their shows?
Well, no, it never really bothered me that much, but I respect that.
Yeah. That's my only thing. I guess I feel old because I never cared about that stuff before. Another funny thing to see on your influence list is God Street Wine, which really shows that you had your
That's the strangest thing. I have no freaking clue how that ended up on my...
So you don't know them or any connection to them?
Well, I do know them. I did go see them once or twice.
But they're not an influence.
There was a place called the Capitol Theater in Portchester.
Yeah, I know it, brother.
Yeah, so I used to go see shows there, and I did see God Street Wine there, and I was on their mailing list. I remember signing up on their mailing list and getting stuff from them, but I don't even remember what the music sounded like.
It sounds like they put that in the Wikipedia based on, using my little news investigative skills from what you just said. They were like, he was on our mailing list. He must have been influenced by us. That's good stuff. I know you got to get on with your thing. I'm just going to wrap it up. I was just going to ask you, when you come to town, would you be willing to do a short, like a 10-minute thing with us?
Yeah, of course.
All right, I'd appreciate it. I'll work it out with your people. I'll see you when you come to town. I have really appreciated talking to you, Matisyahu. Thank you for the time, and please travel safe, my brother. It was really cool talking. We'll catch up more when you get here.
I do.
Be safe. Aloha.
Aloha, this is Matisyahu, and you're tuned to the only show that matters with my boy, Dave Lawrence. Peace. Aloha, this is Matisyahu, and you're tuned to the only show that matters with my boy, Dave Lawrence. Hey, Brother Dave, have a happy 420. Peace.